This question is from JLY Photography and Design. Can you address when and how to use a black reflector? We talked a lot about diffusing a reflector of the silver side and putting the white thing over it. Talk a little bit about the black side.
Okay. Sometimes it's good to cut the light. I don't use a black reflector, but I do bring black flags, which has duvetine on one side. If you don't know what duvetine is, it's like a black velvety material that sucks all the light out. If you are shooting a beauty portrait, like, don't you shoot those now? I would use a black flag. It would be easier for me to subtract light on one side of the face than sometimes add light. So, can you come here for a second? You're like, finally. So, if the light is just too even, I could, in theory, put something black next to her face and increase the shadow in her cheekbones a little bit. This is not a duvetine, so it's not working very well. But it does give you that beautiful dodge and burning effect by using a real lighting tool. So you're not always adding light. Sometimes it's good to subtract. If I put her in front of that window, she's going to be blasted with light. But if I put this next to her face, one side will be like 5% darker. And it would just give you those high cheekbone looks. For beauty portraits, that would be gorgeous, actually. Cool.
Thank you. Let's see. We have a question about using a gray card as we were talking about color casts. Can you avoid a color cast by shooting a gray card first? That was when we had the red wall and talking about that.
In most cases, yes. You can adjust. You can improve the exposure using like an expo disc or something like that. But when you have a red gel, like what we did, that's far going to exceed the capabilities of an expo disc. So the answer to that is, if the color cast is very strong, absolutely not. But if the color cast is kind of just there, you could totally control it. Mm-hmm.
All right, great. Let's keep going with the rapid fire. And again, anyone in the studio audience, let me know.
Yeah, guys, did you guys have fun today? Kind of a lot.
All right, so a question, are all of these lighting scenarios good for light-skinned people and dark? Does it work the same for dark-skinned people? So when you're assessing all these lighting scenarios, the shadows, the bouncing, are you considering the skin tones as well?
Yeah, I mean, skin tone to me is just like another color. So when we talked about Rachel's shirt versus Mark's shirt, it's like a light color versus a dark color. If you're shooting someone that's dark, like a dark-skinned person, and you put them in front of a dark background, probably not the greatest move, just because there's no color contrast. So I would say the answer is no. My lighting techniques wouldn't change at all. I just think where I choose to put them in front of might change. But the lighting techniques wouldn't change.
And so just to further on that, several people had voted on this one. What about a dark-skinned person with the white wall?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very Men in Black look, and it's kind of cool. It's a highly contrast situation. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I just think you better crop tight, or you're doing like a silhouette kind of photo. Because if you have a white wall and a bunch of black figures like black tuxedos or black shirts or black skins or any of that stuff is kind of in front of the white wall, it's just going to be nothing wrong with it. It's just going to be an effect. But I would say if you're going to do that, I would shoot wider angle. If you shoot closer up into their faces, it's like you're trying to feature their face, but their face are competing with a very bright background, and it's like you're trying to fight a battle and you don't even know what you're fighting for. Does that make sense? If I have a really white wall with the sun hitting the white wall, and I have a bunch of people with dark skin wearing tuxedos, it would be a wide angle picture, and I would play with the figures of the people. But I would never try to say, look at the great face of these guys, when the white is so distracting you can't enjoy their face. So, good ones.
Nikki has a question.
Yeah, Nikki, yeah, go. That's great.
So I'm really excited to try this because I shoot overcast a lot, obviously I live here, but the flash hitting the ground and creating the light. Can you tell me a little bit more about how
you gotta be careful with that one, because if you are with your flash on If the zoom feature of your flash is on automatic, like if it's adjusting to your lens, this is going to be a very big problem for you. I didn't want to talk about the intricacies of that because that's a different day. But in theory, you have to switch your flash to manual zoom and put it as wide as possible because you need to make it look like the sun. So you point the flash, and in fact, you probably want to point the flash as high as possible too. Zoom it to take the wide angle panel out, so it zooms to 14 millimeters, the flash. Hit the ground, and then, and if you do that wrong, it's gonna look like I see dead people.
That's what I was imagining when you said that, so I was curious. Okay.
If you do that, you run into that risk, but it could also be a lifesaver. If you have, let's say you have 80% of the light you want, and you need an extra kick, this is a good feature for you. But let's say it's dark, you're not gonna change that. Like if it's kind of dark, if it's like 7:30 at night and you're losing the light, and you try to make it look like daytime, it's not gonna work. Because if you point that, the contrast will be too much, and it will be like I see dead people. Look. Okay. Do you guys zoom the flash head back and forth a lot on your flashes and stuff? Do you think about that? It like changes everything. It's like an amazing feature of the flash. Because by zooming the flash head, you're actually changing the size of the light. So, cool, Kenna. What else do we have from the good folks in the world?
All right, so of course some people are joining us throughout different parts of the day, and V. Simone had asked, does Roberto think that all of these effects can be achieved without an assistant? How hard would it be to do this by yourself? So just wanted to get your thoughts reiterating how much of this you can do yourself.
Okay. Colin, do we have the flash bags where the flash comes in on?
Yes.
The little pouches things? Oh. Yeah, hold on, I need you for a second. Like I said at the beginning of the class, you're never going to create the same beautiful effect as if you have an assistant, but if you have to work by yourself, this is the little assistant, it works great. The other option is for you to bring a stand, but that's carrying more poles and gear. If you don't want to carry anything, this will do it. So basically, let's see here. So basically, if you're photographing W here, this is my typical thing. I'll explain why later. Here's stand right over here. And I will put this always about 10 feet from the subject, about there, with a white card at a 45-degree angle. And then you are with you're doing fashion shoot. No, you're with your boyfriend or whatever. He's here. When you shoot this, that light stand holds the flash for you. It does the job. It's 10 feet. It's perfect. If you have a light stand or a pole you can bring with you, then you can bring this closer and illuminate exactly where you want it. If you don't have someone, go further away and let the light kind of spread and do the job for you. Okay, so there's that.
Thank you.
Very cool.
I think for our final question, we have a ton of requests. If you could summarize again what those are, or go back to, and I think Steele's going to be able to pull it up on the screen for us, the 10 things that you go and look for, because people are really excited about that when you enter a location.
Okay, so just to make it quick and not kill them to death.
Yeah.
I look for simple things. To simplify my life, you have a billion pieces of information in your head. So when you walk into a room, I simply look for the brightest spot on the walls that is non-direct. I look for clean backgrounds. I look for the shadows that are being casted by the objects in the environment. I look for how reflective the surfaces are and what color those surfaces are. Are they red, orange, blue, green, all that stuff. I look for elements that are going to keep the background clean, like the trees. I look for clean pockets of light on the wall, so if you have to work in harsh light, that's a solution for you. If I was photographing her, look at her beautiful skin. If I was photographing her in direct sun, she would have an amazing photo shoot. Because I would just look for those spots. I would need no assistance. It's just using the environment to assist for you. And the last one that I would say is really important, I would use a reference point. what is your reference point of light? Is the ambient orange? Is the ambient white? In my photo that I showed you, I didn't have a reference point, so I created a reference point by putting the light at the Rolls Royce and then making it look like the headlights were the reference point, okay? You don't have to see it in your face. Sometimes you can create the reference point. I think that's really hard to do that way. That's kind of advanced. Because I once did a photo where there was a lamp, and the lamp was broken, and I put a flash inside the lamp because it was broken, and I put an orange gel inside, and I illuminated the lamp with my flash, and it looked orange. And then I had another flash illuminating my subjects with an orange light, and it looked like the lamp was illuminating them, but I created the reference point. And by the way, that took about 30 seconds, you know. One flash here, manual flash, I'll touch that tomorrow, shoot, okay? The goal tomorrow is really to simplify the whole craziness of flashes. Everybody all over the world, some people know how to use it well, some people are kind of good but medium, some people are geniuses. I just want to do one thing tomorrow. I want to clean up all those questions that people have about the scariness of a speedlight. Because the speedlight is what created those beautiful photos that I showed you. It is a combination of all those tools.